Yo, what up, Schult? It's Tuna. I wanted to share with you guys today a build that I've been playing for the last 2 days. It's finally made me feel like, yeah, it's made me feel happy to play. You know, Toxic Rain Raider was a success. That's got me through League Start. I managed to farm a little bit of currency doing that. But this is the build that I'm going to be min-maxing going forward. So yeah, it's a Spectral Shield Throw Raider. And we are using a Critical Strike to, buff our damage. And the way we achieve that is by using a hybrid ES evasion shield. And that is because Spectral Shield Throw gives us a flat fizz per 15 evasion on our shield. It also has a ton of flat fizz just on the gem itself. But to complement that, we are using the Seething Fury. The Seething Fury is giving us 0.2% base crit per 10 maximum ES and 0.4 offhand critical strike multiplier per 10 ES. So that's about giving us like 120 critical strike multiplier and about 6.5% base crit. So this jewel is already getting us to about 60% crit, 60 to 70% crit. We are actually, capping with our diamond flask, which I still have to use an instilling orb to use it, as like similar to this one when you hit a rare unique enemy, which is when you need damage, so that we can actually maximize our uptime when we actually need it. So, yeah. I'd like to quickly showcase the map. This is a T16 map, and this is what it currently looks like today on we're about a week into the league, so yeah. So the pros and cons of this build is that it's a pretty fast build. It's played on a raider. It's it's got decently good clear. It's got very good single target, and overall for a weapon melee build sort of thing, it's not melee, I know, but for what people's conception of this build is, I think it has incredible clear, and the potential for the damage is also insane. That is because it's been given 3 additional chains on the skill gem itself, and it also shoots out a ton of projectiles when it chains, every time it hits an enemy. So every time it chains, it'll shoot out a ton of proj, which help us clear packs, and those proj can then be, enhanced with pierce or chain. So essentially, yeah, you just want to get as much pierce as possible, and chains if possible as well for your main projectile. So the more chains you get, the more times your main projectile will chain, and the more pierce you get, the more of those small projectiles that you're seeing, the more those will pierce into packs. So yeah, it is complemented by both chain and pierce, and yeah, you can get those either as gems or if you'd like to on the chest or anything like that. So this is kind of what the map clear looks like. I'm gonna quickly go to the boss and then we can talk about the rest of the build. This is what it looks like. It just freezes bosses and it sort of just deletes them. So you see here, it's really good. I'm also going to be showing what it looks like on actual bosses, so you get an idea of what it's like on Cirrus or on Conquerors and things like that. Yeah, that is the showcase for mapping. So we chose to go for a Raider because the Raider is actually getting an additional Frenzy Charge. And Frenzy Charges are going to be buffing us by giving us a lot of movement speed, and attack damage. So we have currently 9 Frenzy Charges, so that is giving us 90% attack damage, a lot of movement speed, and a lot of evasion. You don't want to see me do maths, but yeah, there it is. We're taking Quartz Infusion for the dodge and spell dodge, as well as permaphasing. That is just too much quality of life. It's going to help us cap our dodge and that sort of stuff, as well as give us permaphasing, so we can free up a flask. And yeah, we're getting Avatar of the Veil. I think is the best thing here for an elemental damage build. We're going to be avoiding 50% of elemental ailments, which we can also pretty much cap by external means with our gear, or with a tree with crystal skin, and also by using thick skin. So it's fairly easy to get ailment avoidance still, although it's kind of annoying that they nerfed it. But most importantly as well, we're getting lightning and cold exposure while we're phasing, which is all the time obviously. So that's minus 20% to those resistances. So that is going to give us basically 20 penetration to nearby enemies. So that is an obvious choice for us. We're not taking Avatar of the Chase and Rapid Onslaught because although I think 100% Onslaught effect is insane, I think it can be replaced by Flask. So It's really good early. You want to have like consistency in speed and things like that, but later on, I don't think that you can beat Way of the Poacher and Avatar the Slaughter, so that is why we opted in for that. And when using combination with Disciple of the Slaughter and some, you know, like damage affixes like increased damage per frenzy charge, like the frenzy charge just basically double dips with all that sort of stuff, so it's really, really good. Yeah. And yeah, let's talk about the tree a little bit, because I feel like people are going to ask. For our jewels, we would actually prefer to get Bis jewels with attack speed if you've crit recently. That is the best that we can get. We can get some flat life and then crit multi on that too. Although you can also go for like Cobalt jewels or whatever. This, you see I got attack speed while holding a shield, crit multi and life, and some stats, fill out the rest. Seeing Fury is absolutely necessary. You don't need Corrupted Blood on this, but I opted in for going this route, so yeah. Got Corrupted Blood on this. This jewel is giving me about 70% more damage, so it's a key part of the build if you'd like to pay crit Spectral Shield Throw. I'm using a Watcher's Eye here. I actually managed to buy this for relatively cheap, although you don't need the penetration at all. What you're looking for is the physical damage converted to cold, and if you can't afford this either, it's completely fine. You just go for Grim Sorrows and you take 40% conversion here. You're gonna miss 10% conversion. You can fix that with a Glorious Vanity. If you divine it, eventually you could actually get yeah, you could actually get the 10% extra conversion there. Or as you're working towards getting your Watcher's Eye, you just opt in for only having 90% conversion. That's completely fine. You're gonna be missing about 7% damage from there, but I think it's fine to be farming maps with that. The amount of damage that I currently have is already very, very, very good, and I'm having no problems doing any bosses and things like that. So I was doing that even before getting this Watcher, so that was completely fine there. This Thread of Hope is actually pretty much key to the build, because it allows us to get Winter Spirit by saving a point there. It allows us to get Aspect of the Lynx, Forces of Nature, and I'm also opting into taking 1 Pierce here since I don't have a Lionhead's Vision, so I get 1 Pierce here. So this is a really, really great value Thread of Hope on a small ring, so that is something that you'd want to pick up for sure. And aside for that, it's just I'm using a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency. That is only because I wanted to level up my precision a little bit more, and that is also brought down my Spectral Shield Throw to 7 mana, and you can see here that by spamming I'm pretty much 100% sustaining my mana. So that's really nice. I never have mana issues when in combination with the -7 non-channeling craft here. So yeah. For our cluster jewel, we're using a large cluster jewel that gives us increased damage over time with bows. It doesn't really matter. This can also be with melee, whatever. And the only thing that we're going to be losing is like a tiny bit of damage here and here. I'm going to be opting into changing this, but the main thing that we are looking for is actually Smite the Weak, Feed the Fury, and Fuel the Fight. Smite the Weak is going to give us a Maim. So essentially what Maim does is it gives a debuff to the enemies. It slows them down. And we're also going to be getting 40% increased attack damage against maimed enemies. So that is both going to be helping us with survivability, slowing the enemies down. And it's going to be helping us with damage, since 40% attack damage is actually a lot. So yeah, definitely good. And then we're looking for our Leech here. And I think this is a really good way to get Leech, because it doubles as Leech and damage. So we're getting 0.4% of attack damage, Leech's life, and increased damage while leeching. It's not going to be up all the time, but essentially some of the time it's going to be up when we're attacking, especially considering that we're using life tap support on mostly everything. So yeah, that's going to be giving us some damage and some attack speed when we are leeching, but most importantly it's going to give us our leech. And it's the exact same thing here. So attack speed, leech mana, damage while leeching. For our medium clusters, we're going to be using critical strike clusters. Crit strike clusters are actually insane, so yeah, we're going to be using those, and we're using 4 to 5 passives at most. We don't want to use 6 passives. We're looking for item level 50 plus. Ideally, I like to stick at item level 50. These are really easy to craft with basically just using a speed or attack reforge, since with a speed or attack, you're always guaranteed to get quick getaway. Then you're looking for the second notable, which is pressure points, or alternatively, you can get, I have them here, if Precise Retaliation, which gives us 60 crit, so that's also a very valid option. We are getting currently 2 of them. Eventually we will work up to having 4, depending on whether we can actually fit a second large cluster. So yeah, we're using 2 of those. And those are the only real notables that you want to get. Quick Getaway is because it gives us a lot of attack speed, it gives us movement speed if we've dealt a crit, and it gives us crit. So this is, you know, going to give us 10 movement speed with 2 of them, and 10 attack speed, and some crit, 50 crit altogether. This is going to give us a 10% chance to deal double damage with crits. So that alone is like a 10% more damage, so that's insane. Pressure points is really, really good. So, yeah. And that is our medium clusters. I believe that is it. So I'd like to talk about now the gem setup. So we are using Spectral Shield Throw, of course, in combination with Awaken Cold Penetration, Hypothermia support, Elemental Damage with Attack support, Vicious Proj, and Inspiration. This is the best gem links that we can get currently for this setup. Although you could actually, you know, you could change like a chain instead of Hypothermia or something like that if you'd like to have a better clear, if that's what you want, yeah. And for our auras, this is very important. We are using Hatred, Herald of Purity, because most of our build is actually being scaled off Hatred. Since we have a ton of base fist damage, we are then adding that extra physical damage as extra cold into cold damage. And since we are 100% converting our fist damage to cold, we are getting a lot of use out of Hatred, and that is the only main aura that we'd want to use with this build. And Herald of Purity is just there to grant us more physical damage. So essentially this is scaling our base, and this is going to be scaling the rest of the build. Let's do this trade real quick. So yeah, that is currently what the gem setup for that is. I'm using a shield charge, fortify support, life tap, faster attacks. I'm using life tap so I never run out of essentially I never run out of mana, so I can always shield charge out of there. And faster attacks and fortify, you know, fortify is going to give us a little bit of defense. That's going to feel really good while mapping. And faster attacks is just going to make it very, very fast. So when I'm actually shield charging, like this is without frenzy charges, it's already really good. When we get a ton of frenzy charges, which currently we have 9, our attack speed is just going to be completely insane. So yeah, you see it's sort of like tapping our life quite a bit if we spam it. But, you know, the thing is that we're going to be leeching as well, since we leech life with our large clusters and things like that. So it's never really going to be a problem while we map. So yeah. Currently, I'm also using a Summon Ice Golem, Life Type support, and a Hydrosphere. Again, I'm using Life Type support here too, so that my Hydrosphere will always trigger, and my Golem will always trigger. That is because we are actually reserving a lot of our mana. Sorry about the noise. We're reserving a lot of our mana, and if what happens if we don't have enough mana to cast it, this is put on cooldown anyways, and what happens is that you'll then have to wait another 8 seconds for that to happen. So for it to be more consistent, I put that on life type support as well. And anyways, there isn't really much that you'd want outside of triggering these two. Further on down the line, maybe I'll look into not triggering these way, maybe using a focus helmet or something like that, but essentially that's what it's there for. And the reasoning for Hydrosphere is because if we're hitting our main target, say Alba is our main target, it'll then hit our main target and then chain to a Hydrosphere, and it'll release the projectiles twice, and those projectiles both can hit single targets. So those projectiles deal 50% of our base damage, so half of our base damage. It's not going to deal quite as much damage as the main projectile, although it's basically like having, you know, 50% more damage on a single target, which, you know, makes our single target very, very good. So we're not using it at all for the exposure, so yeah, we don't care about that. It's just all about getting that extra damage on the single target. I am also using a Flame Dash. That is only to sort of get out of some sticky situations sometimes. I'm mostly going to be using you know, Shield Charge to get out of things. And I also have a Stormbrand, Power Charge on crit, increased critical strike supports. That is so we can generate power charges on single targets. So I just put like 2 of them, and that's enough to sort of get our power charges there going, and it's not a problem at all. So yeah, that is that setup there. I'm using Calling Strike support, Ancestral Protector, and Sniper's Mark. So Sniper's Mark is actually insane. What Sniper's Mark does is that, you know, it makes the target take 35% increased damage from projectile hits. So that's basically like enemies take 35% increased damage. And it also makes projectiles split towards 4 additional targets. So if we have it up on our main target, It's going to be very, very easy for us to sort of cleave everything around the main target if there is stuff, like, I don't know, if there's ads or whatever. When you get into a boss fight, you get that sniper's mark and it just cleaves everything. And it's really good. I opted to not have that on trigger because I felt like the 8-second cooldown was not consistent enough to have it up when I needed it, so I ended up self-casting that. So that is why I'm doing that. If you had a shorter trigger, like a 4-second, then I would consider it, but yeah, that is why I did that. Then we have precision. Obviously, this is just here to cap our accuracy. In combination with Summon Ice Golem, I am currently at 99. I've also put accuracy on my flask here, on my diamond flask, as you can see, which caps us at 100. So yeah, that is just to get our accuracy all the way up. And that is because in my current setup, I am actually ailment immune with we got 20% here, 20% ailment immunity. We have 30% here on our chest, 28, but yeah, so we're 2% off. And then 50% on our Ascendancy, which makes us a 98%, so I'll have to divine this. But my plan going forward is not going to be using this chest. I want to use a Lionized Vision, and that is because it gives us an additional pierce. And that is a very, very good chest overall to be using. Although, for now, I'm still going to stick into this chest because I plan to get ailment immunity some other way, you know, be it boots or shield. Essentially, that's going to be like a little bit more end game. So, yeah. And we're getting Mana Leech from our cluster there as well. So we got Life Leech, we got Mana Leech. The build is overall pretty balanced in terms of how it maps and things like that. So, yeah. We talked about sort of the core gems and things like that. I'd like to go over some of the itemization. So we can use stat sticks as our weapons, and the main things that we are looking for is gain physical Elesshar, damage per frenzy charge is also very good. Hatred increased aura effect is probably the most insane thing that you can get on the weapon itself. We can also use for look for penetration, that is either global or cold pen, which is either on Shaper or Deemer weapon bases. So yeah, those are your options for the weapon. Aside from that, you're not really looking for anything. You know, if you have like extra suffix or extra prefix or anything like that, like you could also just get some quality of life stuff, you know. So yeah, I mean, the cold damage, the spell damage, it's useless on this weapon. So I have 2 dead stats, yet this is a really good weapon. It's relatively hard to craft, but if you just spam Frigid at a weapon, you know, you can eventually get something good. This is also not the best base. You can either have a claw base for on-hit recovery, or you could even find, you know, oil, like a rapier, like something like this, with 435 multi. It doesn't really matter. It's just walk and roll on that weapon. So, you know, hatred effect can't really actually roll on rapiers, so I would opt out for that personally. But yeah, so for the helmet, I would recommend not going for Huber Circlet, rather going for a Dex Evasion base, because it was actually pretty difficult to get my intelligence. I had to actually craft int here, and you can see I'm literally 30 int off, and that's because we have to get 154 for that. It's extremely annoying actually. So, you know, going for a dex base helmet or int dex, much better. But we are looking for the enchant Spectral Shield Throw fires. 5 additional shards is gonna make our clear a lot better. Very strong. So yeah, you don't have to have a Redeemer base. Although if you do want to have the nearby enemies have -90 cold resist, which is a pretty big multiplier for the build, you should opt in to do that. And you have to have an item level 85 for that. Currently these helmets are sort of expensive. I bought mine for 2x, but I think they're rising in price because people are realizing Spectral Shield Throw is actually really good. And lab runners have not really reacted yet to this demand. So I think in a few days or something like that, they'll go down in price again once people have sort of bought theirs out. So yeah, that is our helmet. For the most important part, our shield. The shield is our weapon. This is actually our weapon, so you have to treat this like it is. We are just looking for a very high flat evasion and flat energy shield amount. So the way we achieve that is through getting high base quality, so 30% base quality, and then crafting quality on after that. And we can do that by just grabbing a item level 84 or 86 base. 86 base will give you T1%. It's really hard to hit it, so you know, it's up to you whether you want to do that. It's a little bit more expensive. I personally have been farming my own in Oba's Cursed Trove. So Oba's Cursed Trove is actually 4 chaos, and it has a chance to drop any base, so make sure it's being shown on your filter. The reason why there's so little of these shields on the market is because Never6 actually hides these, and so nobody's picking them up essentially. And so they currently cost like 50 to 70 C or something like that. So I guess when people put them on the filter, you know, start showing up on the market. So yeah, the way to craft this is basically just spam dense fossils, just keep spamming dense fossils, and then eventually you'll get it. And yeah, anything else that we can get on there is bonus, you know, like a little bit of resistance is cool. And we want to always end up finishing it off with quality. So I went and I opted in for strength quality. That's because I actually need strength for most of my gems. As you can see there, we're sort of stat starved in regards to int and strength. So yeah. For our amulet, the amulet is also a place where we can get a lot of damage. So we are looking for Guinness Extra, Global Multi. Those are our two main stats that we like on our amulet. Global Fizz Extra will always be better than Penetration, so and also Multi as well. So you want to always look for those two over Penetration, but the third one, if you were to get a third damage stat, it would definitely be, so first of all, look for Fizz Extra, then Crit Multi, and then Penetration. And lastly, you know, our defensive stats like Life and Res. Our amulet is such a huge source of power that those three stats, you should definitely prioritize them over everything else, and then go from there. So yeah. For our chest, as I said earlier, I just made this chest with some, you know, with some pristine fossils, and then I unveiled ailment immune, so I got quite lucky on this. You don't need anything close to like this, although having ailment immunity on your chest is really good. You know, it's not completely necessary. You could go for Lionized Vision Crusader chest again, as I said. That acts as pseudo 7 link, so that's really good. And that is actually the endgame chest for the build that you can see in the POBs below. You'll be able to see you know, your options in that regard. And yeah, I opted in to get high life, base crit, which helps us a little bit capping our crit. And yeah, the ailment avoidance, and I just crafted a stat. So this chest is not exactly finished, but I'll eventually finish it. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the chest. For our ring, these slots are pretty open, honestly. I opted in for going for a taming because I was pretty strapped on resistance. I'm currently actually working on sorting out my resistance, so at some point, you can see here, I'll be able to take the taming off and actually putting a better ring. I can actually do that like right away, but the taming is actually like a lot of damage. As you can see, it gives us about 50 wed plus 20 per ailment, so we're only actually doing cold damage, so I'm really only getting 50 wed out of this. Unless the target is frozen, then we're getting 70. But it gives us 40 all res, which is it's pretty cheap as well, so it's a valid option if you're wanting to cap your res. But I would recommend against it, as you can get like 50 wed, life, and other stats right on rings, including attack speed and res and things like that. So it takes a lot of weight off the rest of your gear. So yeah, that is my left ring. My right ring, I actually ended up finding this Intimidate Implicit for 1 Exalt, and I crafted off of it, and I just crafted this with pristine fossils, and I just spammed pristine fossils until I got something decent. So I went and I got T2 Wed, as you can see, and T1 Live, so I opted in for just sticking with it, and yeah, it's sort of just like a very basic ring, but looking for a Synth Implicit would be very good as well. To put as part of your build. In this case, Intimidate gives enemies take 10% increased damage, which is pretty good. So I went for Intimidate in this on this ring here. So to start off, I decided to go for the Hermsorrow gloves. Hermsorrow gloves are, you know, not that great at all. Although the best thing about them is that they provide 80% physical damage to cold conversion. It's sort of difficult to find good gloves on the market that have decent life, decent res, frenzy charge, and a free prefix for 25% conversion, which is what you can craft with the crafting bench, you know, through Unveils. So yeah, I opted into going for Hermsorrows with corruption. Cost me 50C. Availability of them might vary since I'm not sure people are really corrupting these gloves. Yeah, that is a very valuable valid option. And if you can't find Hermsorrows, then you should maybe like look into getting rare gloves. It's very, very easy for rare gloves to beat this since, you know, it doesn't really have much on it. It just has strength, 28 cold res, and physical damage converted. So yeah, the damage is insignificant in this case. For our belt, we're just using a very basic rare belt. Looking for life, resistance, elemental damage with attacks. Later on down the line, we can get an insane belt with redeemer mods, you know, like cold damage against chilled enemies and all that sort of stuff. But that is for when you min-max the build. I'm gonna link a POB, you know, in the video description, showing you all of the stuff that you need to actually min-max the build, and the items that you would want to look for in that regard too. So yeah, and we're using an Abyssal here, just basic Dex int, multi-life, fix our stats, give us some life, give us some damage. For our boots, we're using Dark Ray Vectors. This is the basically what I would use until I got nice, you know, possibly Tailwind, elusive boots or whatever. You can see that a trend of the upgradability of this build is just insane. Like there's so much that you can do to this build to upgrade it. So I think it's a fun project for me to take on going forward into the league. But Tailwind is going to give you a crazy amount of damage since it's 8 to 10 action speed, depending on whether you get elevated or not. Although this is a very valid option, you know. Dark Ray Vectors give you resistance, give you 1 maximum frenzy charge, and a decent amount of movement speed for that, and a lot of dodge. So yeah, they're pretty good boots. They're not bad at all. And you can see that, like, even with, I think I have 2 pieces with crafted gear and 3 pieces with no life. I'm at 4k life, so I have 112% on the tree. For a softcore build, I think that's completely fine, especially considering we're a raider. You know, we're basically rarely ever hit, so we can relatively tank things. You know, there's gonna be time to time where you've rolled your map with 12 mods and you're gonna get slapped, but you know, that's on you. All right, that's on you. We're also taking a lot of physical damage taking this cold, so we're mitigating a lot of the damage that way too. Piece of hate. So, you know, it's relatively defensive. It's not the tankiest build, but it's also not squishy. You know, a lot of evasion, a lot of dodge. I'm using instilling orbs on all my flasks. That is because I don't want to press my flasks anymore. GGG has given me the means to flask macro, essentially in game. So I'm gonna be doing that from now on, even though it's like not efficient. I'd like to, you know, I don't want flasks. So what I'm using here is I think this is the best mod for flasks that actually provide a damage increase. So used when you hit a rare or unique enemy, if not already in effect. So I apply this to all my damage increase flasks. So it's for my Taste of Hate, for my Silver Flask. I know this also gives movement speed, but it's up most of the time anyways when you're mapping. So yeah, you could put either when it's full on this one or when you hit a rare unique enemy, but I've opted in for rare unique enemy. And I'd actually like to change the instilling orb on this to rare unique enemy, but you know, we'll get to that at some point. On my Quicksilver though, I'm using when charges reach full, and instead of Alchemists, I'm still using a Chemist because it gives us reduced charges used. Alternatively, you could get called Charge Recovery, which is also very good, you know. Yeah. I'm just using a bubbling life flask of staunching, so some basic stuff there. And I hope I've not forgotten anything. If you have any questions about the build, please let me know. I'm going to be linking both the POBs in the description. So, yeah. If you have any questions, drop by the stream. You know, twitch.tv/crouching_tuna. If you like the video, please like. If you have any suggestions of videos to do in the future, maybe like builds you like me to look at, or farming strategies you like me to look at, or whatever, please comment down below. And also let me know how your league has been. What you've thought about, you know, this has been a pretty divisive league in regards to people hating it, people loving it. I actually really like the league, it's really fun. And today they just had a patch where they really buffed it, so I'm looking forward to actually testing that out. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice day. Peace.